I'm going to discuss about the hypothesis. What are the different types of error, as well as how we are going to test the hypothesis. So before I'll proceed to this particular section, I'll just complete the topic which we were discussing yesterday. I have discussed about a plagiarism software that no plagiat. So I'll just take you to the website. Let me share my whole screen. So it's visible. So this is the website, and you can log in from your account. Like you can see that I have entered my email address. I'll just log in. There's some problem, I think. Just wait. I think there is a problem with the website. It's not working right now. Okay, leave it. So what we have to do, we have to send an email to the admin. So whenever you're going to create an account and you have already logged in, so on the top, what you're going to see that it has been mentioned that your account is a student account. So you can go to the setting, and from there you can find the email address of the admin who is running the website. So you have to send an email to the admin of the website, that's this noplagiat.de, that you are working as a faculty member, and you can send them proof as an attachment. So it can be your ID card, or it can be the offer letter which you have received while joining as a faculty member in the institute. So what they used to do, they used to refer the institute website, that your name or your profile should be there in the institute website, and email address which you have given. For example, I'm creating my account with this email address called as choice.amit. So the same email address should mention on the institute website. So if it is the similar, they are going to approve your account as a educator. So your student account will be converted into a educator account, and you are going to get a around 20 document to be scanned in a month. So each month it is going to revise. So it is not like once you have finished with 20, then you are not going to get a document. Every month it is going to be revised, and there is no word limit. There is no limit for the number of pages. You can scan as long as big documents also, as your wish. So just what the procedure, email to the admin, and if any person who is not able to get the email of the admin of noplagiat.de, they can contact me. I'm going to give that. I have already followed the process 2 or 3 times and recommended the same thing to the multiple other faculty members. They have already got the account and they are working. For student, what I recommend, they can ask the their supervisors, or they can ask the help of any other faculty member who is working in a college. They can create the account, and then they can avail the facility. Directly student cannot avail the facility. They have to avail with the help of their supervisor, or the with the faculty member. So I'll come to presentation on the today's topic, uh, hypothesis. So as you know, this is the last session. So two things I'm going to discuss. One is the hypothesis, and second is the type of error. Let me make it full screen. So these things we are going to cover, that what the hypothesis mean. For example, from the beginning, we were quoting from the first class that A is causing B. So this is the hypothesis which a researcher have made. So this will be called the hypothesis, that you want to prove that really A is causing B. So in this hypothesis, what we have, that means you want to evaluate the different factors that what are contributing to the cancer. So even you want to find out that what type of cancer. So you are going to find out the NC ratio, That means if we have a different source of smoking, we have a bidi, we have a cigarette, we have a cigar, something like that. And after that we have a number of sessions, five sessions in a day, 10 session in a day, or 20 session in a day. So we will have a different subsets. For example, with b, we will have a three different categories. For example, if person is smoking bidi, then uh, 5 times in a day, 10 times in a day, or 15 times in a day. So these will be called as three categories. So like this three category, we are going to get it in terms of cigarette, and three category in terms of cigar. So total we have a 9 category. So finally, when you are going to quote your results, so you are quoting on behalf of all these 9 categories. But you are going to also discuss that out of these 9, which is more prone for causing the prevalence of cancer amongst the smoker, which is the main factor that you are going to find out. Even B is classified into multiple types. It's not only the cancer. You are going to find what is the stage of the cancer, what is the grade of the cancer. For example, we have a 4 different stages. So finally, what will be the answer? Answer will be like, if any person who is on this set, that means the participant who are smoking a BD and consuming a five, or doing a 5 sessions. So what type of cancer he is going to get, or what type of grade of cancer will be suffering from. So this kind of answer you are going to get when you evaluate all over the hypothesis. So just by saying that A is causing B is not sufficient. That means you have to explore a multiple things inside a hypothesis what you are going to quote. So what do you mean by hypothesis testing? Hypothesis testing means these things which I have discussed, that we are not evaluating only, or we just don't want to prove that A is causing B. We have to justify in deeper that we should have the answer that if any person who is smoking 10 cigarettes in a day, then he will be suffer from what type of cancer. That means what will be the nucleocytoplasmic ratio, what will be the stage of cancer, and what will be the grade of cancer if the person is doing that kind of smoking. That means he is smoking a cigarette and 10 cigarettes in a day. Then third category will be from how long, from last 5 years, last 10 years, last 20 years, something like this. So you will have a multiple sets like this. So like this research is going to build, and you are evaluating that either A is causing B or not. On the same time, whenever we are proceeding with the hypothesis, we have to take the errors along with the research. That means either there is a chances of type 1 error in the research, or there will be chances of type 2. So in common, we expect that there will be chances of both kind of error. Might be it is possible that type error, one error is more, or type 1 error, 2 error is more. So what is a what hypothesis? Hypothesis is a formal tentative statement. That means you are not sure. That means you are giving a informal words. You are writing a statement. That informal word I have called. I've said that A is causing B. Like this informal words, you are going a tentative statement. You are not that much sure that it is going to be expected, but you think that it can be happened. Clear? So hypothesis is a formal, these three terms you have to add in the definition, that it is a formal tentative statement of an expected relationship between two or more variable under the study. So what are those two variable? One variable is your A, and second variable is your B. Or you can say the relationship between the independent variable with dependent variable. Now, hypotheses help us to translate the research problem and the objectives into a clear explanation. So whenever we are closer to the results, then we have a answer. Like not only the A, there will be might be some other reason which are responsible for causing the B. So A is not only the one. That means other factor are also contributing. Might be age of the person, that gender of the person, that can be also causing or participating for development of the cancer. So you will have a clear explanation whenever you are going to test your hypothesis. So whenever you are going to write the hypothesis for your research, so it should be clear. It should include the variables, that which variable you are going to examine, what was the who is the population, and what was the proposed outcome of the study. So all these things must be added in the hypothesis. In general, again, we have another definition that hypothesis is a tentative, you can say statement, or you can say explanation, or you can say that it's a prediction made by a researcher of the relationship between the two variables. One variable will be called independent, and second variable will be called dependent variable. So if you see the classification of hypothesis, it is classified into two different types. This slide I'll come later. The most common, which we used to write in our results, we used to call as a null hypothesis, which is represented as a H naught. This one, that H naught is the. Let me change the pen color because it's not visible. This will be called as a null hypothesis called H naught, and second we have a alternative hypothesis. We used to it will be represented as a sign H and small a. Clear? Now, what was the difference between two? And it's a most common question which will be asked in the examination, that what is the difference between the null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis? The null hypothesis states the hypothesized value of the parameter before sampling. Clear? What it means? The assumptions we used to test, or the assumption we are trying to reject. This will be more clear when I'm going to show one picture to you. And this example I have already quoted in two or three different times, that as per the null hypothesis, we can say that mean of any study is equal to 0. But if you want to say, if you want to quote the same thing or the same situation in terms of alternative hypothesis, then we can say then mean of anything which we are finding, or which we are working for, is not equal to 20. So what we will do, we will reject null hypothesis. So it will become anything. It can become 19, it can become 18, it can become 21, it can become 22. So in one side you are just quoting one thing, that only one answer you have, that mean is equivalent to 20. But in other terms, you are rejecting, but you are sure about this thing. In both sides you are sure. In one side, for example, in null hypothesis side, you are sure that mean of the population is equivalent to 20, and you are 100% sure about this thing. You are 100% sure about this thing, that mean of the population is equivalent to 20. Here also, in null hypothesis, you are also 100% sure that mean is not equivalent to 20. It can be less than 18, or it can be more than, sorry, it can be less than 20, or it can be more than 20. It can be 18, 19, 21, 22, but not exactly 20. So both the sides you are 100% sure, but the code you are going to write under the null hypothesis or under the alternative hypothesis, that are the opposite. One more example I have quoted. As per null hypothesis, for example, we have a two different type of coke which are available in the market, and the first type we used to call as a simple coke, and second time we used to call as a diet coke. So we can say there is no difference between the diet coke and the simple coke as per the null hypothesis. But what the alternative hypothesis says, the alternative hypothesis says that there is a difference between both the coke. How difference you are going to code with the help of the sugar content, that there is the sugar content of the diet coke and sugar content of the simple coke is the different. Just hold down. Actually, I have to switch my place because some engineer have visited to work on that AC. Sorry for that. So this is the difference between both the type of hypothesis, that in one side we are 100% sure that something is happening, and in alternative hypothesis we are also 100% sure, and we can quote that the first thing which has happened, it cannot be sure, but it can be something else. Now, for examination point of view, if we want to write that what was the difference between the null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis, this we can find that null hypothesis H naught represent a theory that has to put forward either because it is believed to be true. Always is a researcher always think that whatever he is going to quote, it is true. But once you get the results, so you try to reject the null hypothesis. But and that's why whenever p value we are getting a less than 0.05, and we used to write that null hypothesis is rejected. Clear? So it is used as a basic for an argument that has not been proven. So whenever you are giving an hypothesis, for example, A is causing B, so you are assuming this thing from the beginning, that A is causing B is quoted by you only, and this thing has not been proven by some other person. Clear? So it will be taken as a point for the argument. Either really A is causing B, or some other factor are there which are also contributing to the A. Now you can take an example. For example, in a clinical trial of a new drug, the null hypothesis might be that a new drug is no better, or if any pharmaceutical company they want to launch the drug in the market, so how they used to prove that their molecule is better than the molecule which is already available in the market. Clear? So writing style of this particular code will be something different. So what they used to write, they used to write that there is no difference between two drugs on an average. It can be might be parameter will be something else. For example, where the difference was nothing, or where you are going to find the difference. So you are not going to discuss about the parameters. You are going to write there is no difference between the drugs on an average. If you want to show that both drugs are similar, and if you want to prove that my drug is better than the drug which is already launched in the market, then you are going to quote in terms of the alternative hypothesis. How you are going to quote? You can see that the alternative hypothesis HA is a statement of a what a statistical hypothesis is set up to be established. For example, in a clinical trial of a new drug, that is it is the same condition. The alternative hypothesis might be that a new drug has a different effect. That means the drug which is launched first time, that has a different effect which is all as compared to the drug which is already there in the market. So how we used to write, as per the alternative hypothesis, you can write the two drug have a different effect on average, or you have another option. You can write the new drug is better than the current drug. So out of these two, the first one or the second one, which one is better? I want to write that which quote is better, either the first one or the second one. So by seeing the words which has been used to write the statement, I'll say that second is better as compared to the first one. But if I want to see ethically, or I don't want to uh, find that any or I don't want to involve myself in a ethical procedures which contains the judicial parameters or the situations like this. So I'll not go for the second one, because in the second code I'm going to challenge directly to the drug which is already launched in the market. So what I'll write, both the drugs are having a different effect. That means your drug is also good, but it is different from my drug. Whatever the effect shown by my drug is different from the yours. So as a researcher, you are proving, or you used to write this statement instead of directly writing this one. So what we used to do, we used to write, and so whenever we will apply any statistical test, so what we used to do, we used to write in the favor of the null hypothesis always instead of the alternative. So what we used to do, we used to write null hypothesis has been rejected, and we never say that alternative hypothesis has been accepted. So decision rule, I have already discussed that how we are going to find out and what will be the decision rule that our hypothesis has been rejected or our hypothesis has not been rejected or accepted for these four different choices. Decision rule by seeing the significance level. So how we used to do, we used to find that what was the p-value, what was the level of precision we have got, and we used to compare with the significance level which we have already chosen while calculating the sample size and while applying the statistical test. For example, most common choice we use, that is the 5% level of the significance. So we reject the null hypothesis if it is false in the regions or the area of 0.025. Now, what is this? If I'm talking about 5%, it means whenever I have plotted a graph like this, so here I have a center. So whatever the area getting on this side and the area I'm getting on this side, so I'm working only on 95%. So 95% will be this area from here to here. This will be 95% area, and this we used to call that these are the error of chances of error type 1 and type 2 equivalent to 5%. So each side is representing to 0.025 this side and 0.025 for this side, and we used to call that we have a 5% of error overall. So half for this side and half we used to call for this side, and the area on which we are working, that is your 0.95, and we used to call directly as a 95%. So the higher the level of significance of a research, the higher is the probability of the rejecting. For example, if I am keeping 99% of confidence interval of the study, so my cutoff point will remain as 0.001. So whenever I will apply any statistical test, what I have to do, I have to find a p-value which has been obtained after applying the statistical test. It should be less than this, less than this. So it is very difficult because each time whenever we are getting a p-value, in most of the time, sometime it will be less than 0.05 and sometime it will be more than 0.05. So it is very difficult to get a result below 0.05. So if you're not getting the results less than this, so obviously it is very hard to get a result less than this. So this was also used but for the clinical trials. For example, 99% of confidence interval or even 0.9 will be considered in case of the clinical trials. So higher the confidence interval of the study or the level of significance of the study, and the chances for the your hypothesis for rejection will be very minimum. So it is very difficult to get. For example, if you want very easily that A is causing B, so what you can do, instead of taking this 99%, you can make it to 90, you can make it to 85. So it is very easy for you to prove that really A is causing B. But how other person are going to see your study, they'll see that okay, he have or she have done a study by taking a confidence in interval of 80, 85 or 90. So they'll not give that much uh, popularity, or what I can say, they will not give that much importance to your work. So higher the confidence interval of the study you are going to keep for your study, you are going to get better response from the other researchers. That means other will think that your work is better as compared to the other one. For example, 95 is the most common which will be used by research in academics. So what I did, I was working in between. Pharmaceutical company are working for 97. So what I did, I had chosen a center path that okay, I'll do my PhD on 97%. So for me, what has it has become differently. For 95, the cutoff point is 0.05, but for my whole study, it has become 0.03. And I have seen that out of I think 60 or 70 statistical tests I have applied for my thesis, and if this was my cutoff point, then out of 60, around 45 to 50 tests were found significant. But as the label was different, so what has happened, out of 60, only 17 or 18 tests were found significant. I was able to prove in 17 or 18 cases that A is causing B, or really cost is going to affect by so and so, or length of stay is going to affect by so and so. If I'll keep this one, then obviously it is very, very, very difficult to prove that A is causing B, because this time the chances of null hypothesis for to be rejected will be very less, because p value will be very short, 0.001, very short. So once you are going to see the hypothesis, the same time you have to see that how much error you are expecting. As I have drawn the graph, both the side, the corners of bell distribution curve, which is on the left side and which is on the right side, where we are quoting 5%, 2.5% for right side and 2.5% for left side. So both that area will be called as the chances of error which you are expecting in the research. Might be there is no error in your research, but still you cannot do any research where you cannot expect any error. It can be while taking the data, it can be while making the formulations, or any procedure. Either you're working in the laboratory, or either you're working on the system, or while applying the statistical test also. So two type of error we are expecting. First we used to call as type 1, and second we used to call as a type 2 error. So how to find out that which type of error we are expecting in the research and it has already false in your research? Type 1 error refer to the situation when we reject the null hypothesis when it is true. When that means A is causing B, but you don't want to uh, accept that. Actually, the A is responsible for causing the B, but you don't want to accept. So that kind of in that kind of situation, we can say the researcher is finding a type 1 error in the research. Example, you can see there is no difference between the two drugs on average. This we have quoted. So in this case, type 1 error will occur if we conclude that two drugs produce different effect when actually there is not a difference. And in case of statistics, we used to uh, designate type 1 error with a sign called alpha. I have written A, but it's a alpha, and it will be quoted as a significance level. So how much is the significance level you are expecting? That will be equivalent to the type 1 error in the research. And when we have a type 2 error refers to a situation when we accept the null hypothesis when it is false. That is the opposite of that. So this you have to remember this thing. Type 1 error occurs when we reject the null hypothesis when it is true, or type 2 error occurs when we accept the null hypothesis when it is false. So this code is causing somehow situation. So whenever you are going to search on the internet that what the difference between type 1 or type 2, you are going to find even diagram. That a diagram I'm going to show you. Before that, I'll just let you know that two terms you have to remember, that type 1 error is designated as alpha and type 2 error is designated as a beta. Beta will be called as type 2 error, or we used to call probability. The both type 1 and type 2. Now you can see that a type 1 error, also known as error of the first kind. That means most of the researcher, they used to do this kind of error, which we used to call as a type 1. It occurs when null hypothesis is true, but it is rejected. The rate of the type 1 error, it is called as a size of the test. See, this is a statistical language. In most of the cases, whenever you will have a objective type questions, so each line will act as a each question. For example, there will be question that type 1 error also known as what. So four options will be there. So you have to remember that type 1 error will be called as a error of the first kind. Clear? When it is going to be rejected, when null hypothesis is true but it is rejected, and this is the reason because of that type 1 error occur. The rate of the type 1 error is called as the size of the test. Size of the test. It is denoted by a Greek letter called alpha. It usually equals to the significance level of the test. For example, if you're considering that significance level of the test is 4%, so you can already have assumed that type 1 error, how much can occur in your project, it will be the 4% only. So as you are going to choose that what will be the significance level of your study, that means the same time you have chosen that how much type 1 error you are expecting in your research. So it will be equivalent to the significance level. If type 1 error is fixed at 5%, this is the example. For example, if we are going to fix the type 1 error at 5%, it means there are about 5% of chances in 100% that we can reject the null hypothesis when it is true. I'll just repeat this so that it will be clear to you. What it means, type 1 error, if we are going to fix at 5% or 4%, whatever, we'll keep it 5%. It means 5% chances are there out of 100 that we reject the null hypothesis when it is true. Only 5%. Type 2 error, as you can see, this is also called a error of second kind. So just like remember like this, that first error will be called first kind and second error will be called as a second kind of error. This thing is a point to remember. It occurs when null hypothesis is false, but due to error failed to be rejected. When it is false and due to any other reason we are not able to reject. So due to that, in the research we have a type 2 error. Type 2 error means accepting the null hypothesis which should have been already rejected by due to XYZ reasons. And a type 2 error is committed when we fail to believe a truth. One example I have quoted you, that I was also confused when I was reading these two. So how I used to remember that what was the difference between type 1 and type 2. So if you remember that particular example, you are also able to remember this thing. I'll let you know after this particular slide. The rate of the type 2 error is donated by Greek word beta. So the first thing which you have to remember, first one will be called as alpha, second one will be called as a beta. Yeah. And it is donated by 1 minus beta power of the test, and second one will be called as only alpha. So this is your 1 and this is your 2. If you want to calculate that how much type 2 error has been occurred, so you have to do the 1 minus beta. You are going to find that how much error we have. So how I used to remember, this is the common picture which you used to get in on the internet, and with the same you are going to see one more picture where some faces are there. So you are going to find this thing, that what you are expecting in the research and what has happened in the reality. Now you can see this one. Here researcher is happy, and okay, let me change the color of the pen because it's a white color, so it's not visible. Here the researcher is happy, and here also researcher is happy. What was the situation when the null hypothesis is true in reality or while doing the research. That in reality is what? That A is causing B. And you have also proven the same thing. That means you are following under this category. And you are feeling happy that whatever I have thought, I have found the same thing. But this time, you are expecting what? You are expecting a type 1 error along with that here. And second situation is what? The alternative hypothesis is true in reality. And if you assume that it is really true, that time you will be sad because it is not expecting with the research. The reality is not expecting with the research. So whenever you have error, so type 1 we have this side, and type 1 we have this side. And whenever we are expecting type 1 error, we used to designate as a alpha, this one. And whenever we are expecting type 2 error, we are designating this one as a beta. Or you can see this side, that what was the decision rule which we used to follow, that this is our hypothesis, alternative and true. If alternative hypothesis is true, and we also used to say that it is true, it is called as right decision. When alternative uh, hypothesis is true and we accept null hypothesis, so it will be called as incorrect decision, and it has occurred due to a beta type of error. When null hypothesis is true and we fail to accept null hypothesis, so this is also called incorrect decision due to alpha type of errors. One example I have quoted, what was that? That one scientist was there, he has built a house, and he has spent the a lot of money to build that particular house. So someone uh, asked that particular person that either you have fixed in fire alarm or not, because in this particular area there is so much incidence that your house can caught in fire. So what that person will do, has done, he have taken a precaution. So in that particular house, he has fixed in a fire alarm. He has fixed in fire alarm, this one. Whenever my this house will caught in fire, I should know this is the fire alarm. Clear? So now null hypothesis we have, an alternative hypothesis, as well as type 1 error and type 2 error. Type 2 error. You can see the situation. For what purpose fire alarm has been fixed? Null hypothesis says whenever there is a fire on a house, the alarm should ring. That is quoted by null hypothesis. Alternative hypothesis is what? Fire is there at home, but alarm is not ringing. That is the second opinion. That, or you can say sample A or sample B both are equivalent, or you can say sample A and B both are not equivalent. There is a difference in the sample. So might be alarm can ring or alarm will not ring. It can happen in the alternative hypothesis. So both type of error can occur. So what has happened? One day he was sleeping and really house was burning, but alarm did not ring. So that kind of error will be called as type 1 error. For what purpose the alarm has been fixed in that particular house? That was not working. The purpose was not fulfilled. Whenever the house caught on fire, the alarm should ring. So in one day, what has happened? The house was actually working, burning with the fire, but alarm was not ringing, or due to any reason there was no electricity, or there was shutdown of electricity, or due to some technical error, the alarm was not ringing and house burned a hole. So we can say that what type of error has been occurred, that why the alarm was not working during the house was burning. So we can say that type 1 error has been occurred due to that alarm was not working. In second situation, the alarm was disturbing to the owner. He was giving a false alarms. The house was not working, not burning, but it was giving a false. It was ringing after 2 hours. That go and check that something has happened. But when the owner used to visit the whole house, he say that everything is okay. There is no fire, but alarm is giving a wrong results or false results due to second type of error. So whenever, for what purpose you are performing a research, if that purpose is not fulfilled, you can expect that type 1 error has been occurred in your research. And when you are getting a false result, that means uh, smoke or cigarette is not responsible for the cancer, but in the research you are getting a response like this, that cigarette is responsible for the cancer. It means type 2 error has been occurred in the research. You can think in such a way. So whenever we are conducting a research, we are expecting both type of error together on the same time. You can see with this graph, for example, this is our null hypothesis, which is shown in red color, and this is our alternative hypothesis, which is shown in green color. But because whenever we are going to prove that A is causing B, so we used to keep in our mind that both hypotheses can be occurred, or might be alternative will be true, or might be your null can be true. After performing a research, you are able to find out that which one is true or which one is to be rejected. So you will draw both, that both situation number one, let me change the color, situation number one and situation number two both can occur while conducting the research. So you can see that this is the situation number one and this is the situation number two. So you are might be as per researcher, you are expecting this thing more and this thing less. So I have drawn a graph. One is bigger and second one is shorter color. But same time, both type of error you can expect. Type 1 error, which is shown in yellow color, and type 2, which is shown in the this sky blue color. Now I have drawn a center line, this one, pink color. As I will move this line to this side, for example, from here, I will draw the line here. That means if I'll move the chances of error from this side to this side. So what has happened? The type 2 error is going to be reduced. That means now we have this much area for the type 2 error, but the area for the type 1 has been increased this much. It means what? It means while conducting research, you can expect both the type of hypothesis. One can be higher on the higher side and one can be on the lower side. But you have to expect both type of error, that it can be happen. Might be one will be less, one will be more, but it is sure that both will be there. And as you will increase or decrease one type of error, second is going to deviate. What it means, if I'll, for example, if I will move this pink line little bit more to the right side. For example, if it is here, if I draw that from this side, I have moved to this side. Now it is here. Clear? What it means? It means now area for the yellow color will be this much. That means type 1 error has been reduced, but type 2 error has been increased. So as you will increase or decrease one type of error, it is going to affect the another kind. So it's always vice versa. Now, if you are going to refer a book or the books which has been written on biostatistics and research methodology, you are going to find that author have quoted only two different type of error. But some research paper you are going to find which has been published, I think within 5 years, in span of 5 years, you are going to find that other researchers have also quoted a other type of error which will not fall under the category of type 1 and under the category of type 2. So all those category, either whatever I have written the names of few types of error, for example, measurement, sampling, frame, and random, all these type of error falls under the third category we used to call as a type 3 error. So any other error we used to call which is not falls under type 1 or type 2, it falls under type 3 category. For example, I can say that measurement error is a type 3, sampling error is a type 3, frame error is a type 3, random error is a type 3. So what are all those? As the name indicates, for example, you are working on some measurements where you are measuring something. So error when there is a difference between the information you desire and the information provided by the researcher. That means difference between both the things. So that kind of error we used to call as a measurement error. Sampling error means error when a sample somehow does not represent the target population. That means you want to work on the geriatrics, but by mistake you have enrolled a population which does not fall under the geriatric or which does not fall under the pediatric. So at the beginning only you have to find out that what will be your target population, and if sample has been withdrawn from the outside of the target population, so that time we used to call that sampling error has been occurred. Frame error we have now. How to represent this frame error, I'll let you know. Whenever we are conducting in survey or we are conducting a making a questionnaire, so we will make in frames. That means, for example, I have calculated a sample size and sample size was found to be 100. Sample size was found to be 100 to conduct a study in a college, for example, because college is the best example to explain this thing. That sample size is the 100 and we have calculated the total population is 5,000, for example. 5,000 students are studying in a college, and from there we have calculated the sample size and it was found to be 100. Now who will be this 100 student? We cannot decide like this. So for example, if we have chosen a random sampling design, random sampling, so what we can choose, that this is the gate of the college, this is the gate of the college, and any student who enter inside the campus from student number 1 to student number 100, we are going to enroll all these. So that will be called random sampling. You are not bothered male, female, you are not bothered about the age, any first 100 or last 100 or in between 100 you are going to take. But if you want to choose the another study design, for example a frame design, so what you have to do, you have to find out that how many courses are there. So I'll write that we have a PhD, we have masters in 9 different branches. 9 different branches are there. We have a UG course, we have a diploma course. Clear? So I will divide that. Okay, 25 4 courses are there, so from each course I will take a 25 students. That I will not enroll 50% from diploma and 50 from UG, and I will left all these 2 courses. Not like this. I'll divide, I'll see that how many frames are there. So this will be called as frame. Or if I have a 9 different branches in masters, 9 different branches in master, so all these will be called as frame. So as 25 has been decided for masters, so this 25 divided by 9 I'll do, then I'll see that okay, 2 or 3% I have to take from the each branch. So this will also called as a frame. So if sampling was not taken as per frame, then we used to call as a that error has been occurred due to frame error. That means this error we used to call. For the frame error, when a sample drawn from a population different from the target population. Clear? That means frame error you have done. And we have a random error and random sampling. I have already discussed with you that it occurs when the selected sample is in imperfect representation of the overall population. That means whatever the 100 participant you are going to choose, that these 100 I am going to enroll in my study, but they are not going to represent the actual situation. So that time we used to call that we have a random type of error. So this is the overall chart, which will let you know that in what cases your null hypothesis is true and in what cases your null hypothesis is false. Because we will not discuss that much about alternative. And in final or in short, finally we are going to end up our research by quoting a result that our results was found significant or not significant. If significant, then our null hypothesis is rejected or not rejected. So null hypothesis will be on the top. So either you will fall on this side when it is true, or either on this side when it is false. When null hypothesis is true, test does not reject the null hypothesis, it means it's a correct decision. If the test which you have applied, it rejects null hypothesis, it means type 1 error has been occurred. And opposite of that, you can see when test does not reject, it means type 2 error has been occurred. And if test reject, that means it is a incorrect decision. So you want to be on this side. This is the main question which will be asked by the examiner, that yes, we have already discussed that two different type of errors are there, but if we are finding a type of error, either it is your type 1 or type 2, then how we are going to reduce, or how, or what are the different methods. So in common we used to call what, that type 1 error, which is called as alpha, because it is equivalent to a significance level of the study. So directly what we will do, significance level, for example, it is 5%. So how it was decided? Because of the confidence interval. As you have chosen the confidence interval of the study, for example 95%, automatically the chances of error which will be there in your research is equivalent to 5%, and we used to call as a margin of error in the research 5%. So as you will increase this confidence interval, the chances of error is going to reduce. As you will make this was 96, it will become 4. As you will make it 97, it will become 3. So by increasing the confidence interval of the study, you can reduce the type 1 error. So it is used to increase the, what we have to do, we have to increase the level of confidence, or we can increase the confidence interval of the study to reduce the type 1 error. So if it is, for example, 98, then it will become 2. Like this it is going to, because type 1 error is equivalent to the alpha, and these are our alpha levels. These are our alpha levels. And type 1 error is always equivalent to this. How to reject type 2 error? Two different methods are there. Either you are doing a descriptive testing, you have that time you have a sample size. So by increasing the sample size of your study, you can reduce the type 2 error. So descriptive testing is used to better describe the test condition and acceptance criteria, which in turn reduced by the type 2 error. So increasing the number of time or the number of sample. For example, if you are performing a titration, or you are performing an experiment where you have to take a multiple readings. So what you will do, you will take the n number of readings. You are going to increase the number of readings, number of time you are going to increase. So that will, what will happen, you will be more closer to reject the null hypothesis, and that time the chances for the type 1 error increases, but chances of type 2 error is going to reduce. So whenever you want to reduce the type 2 error, you have to increase the number of sampling, you have to increase the number of sample in your study. But make sure in that case, what will happen might be in other side, type 1 error is going to be increased. So you have to look for the both. That it does not mean that in this side you are reducing type 2 error and you are not looking for the type 1, so which is by default or vice versa increasing. So two method will be accepted for reducing the error. That make sure what type of confidence interval you have taken for your study. At the same time, either the sample which you have chosen is sufficient to quote your hypothesis or not, or it is sufficient to prove what you have quoted in your hypothesis. Like you have quoted your hypothesis in case of A is causing B. So what you'll do in stats, we have a three statistical test: test for Leibniz and test for homogeneity, to find out that equality was maintained or not, or either we have to increase the number of sample in our research or not. So if you're expecting that type 2 error has been occurred in your research, that time what you can do, you can increase the sample size. But at the same time, you have to look for the test for Leibniz value as well as test for homogeneity's value also, that it should be within the range. If it is crosses 0.05, then it is good for your research. And if it is falling less than 0.05, that time you have to be conscious that, okay, now I cannot increase more sample, otherwise I will be out of the equality of variance. That means equality of variance has not been maintained. So I cannot increase more number of sample. That time what you have to do, you have to change the confidence interval of your study. So as you will change confidence interval, type 2 error is going to be increased. That is the third thing. So these were the type 2 errors which we have in the research and the hypothesis. So two things you have to remember. I'll let you know which slides are important. This is the slide which is used to take the decisions. That you can think in such a way that this side we have a, on the top is the reality, or this side you are performing a research and you can quote your result x or y axis like this. And second, we have another slide. I'll let you know that which is important, this one, that what was the difference between exactly null hypothesis and the alternative hypothesis. And if you quote these two examples, then you will not able to forget in your whole life that these two, what null hypothesis used to quote and what alternative hypothesis used to quote. Always whenever you're writing a H naught, it means you are doing equivalent, and whenever you are writing a about the alternative hypothesis, you are rejecting this thing. Whatever you are obviously we are comparing in both. Whenever you are quoting a null hypothesis or you are quoting a alternative hypothesis, you are quoting a different samples. That sample A, B, and C are equivalent. For example, if I want to write the null hypothesis for ANOVA, I used to write what? That sample 1 is equivalent to sample 2, and sample 1 and 2 is equivalent to sample 3. This is quoted by null hypothesis for one-way ANOVA. And if I want to write alternative, what I'll do, that 1 and 2 is not equivalent, but chances are there these are equivalent. Or might be I can write in such a way also, and I can cross the this also. So both will be acceptable under alternative hypothesis. And same has been quoted here in this example, that mean of anything is equivalent to 20, which is quoted by null hypothesis. And alternative hypothesis says that mean of anything is not equivalent to 20. It can be anything, but not 20. It can be 18, 17, 5, 10, 25, 26, but not 20. And if you want to write the both the hypothesis, either it is your null or it is your alternative for that A is causing B. So what you can write, that A is causing B. In null hypothesis, you are saying this, that A is causing B, or smoking is causing a cancer. Whereas alternative hypothesis says that A is not the reason. Okay, cancer has been occurred to a patient. Cancer has been occurred to a patient, but A is not the reason. There is a some other reason. It can be your X, it can be Y, it can be Z. Everything is possible, but this is sure that A is not the one who has caused the cancer. Will be quoted by alternative. So what you used to do, you were trying to prove this. See, whenever you conduct the research, you will find all these things. You will find that okay, X is the reason, Y is the reason, and Z is the reason for the cancer. So you will reject this. Yes, A is not the only one which has caused the cancer, because this was the previous thought before conducting research, that only the person who smoke will suffer from the cancer. But when you are a researcher, you have found, okay, now A is not the only one. Other reasons are also there. It can be the X, it can be Y, it can be Z, which has caused the cancer. So what you'll say? You'll say that alternative hypothesis is a true, but you will not quote this in the research paper or in the review paper. You will write what? You will write null hypothesis is rejected. And how you are going to write? You will write that H naught says A is causing B. So you will reject this, that A is not the one which has caused the cancer. So if you remember these two examples or three examples, you are able to write between the difference, alternative and hypothesis, and you should able to write the hypothesis for your research. So whenever you are going to quote the objectives of your protocol, for example, you are making a protocol. So during making your protocol, what you have to do, you have to quote the hypothesis that I have, that the different previous literature says that you are going to write the code. And as per our research team, or I found that this is possible, or that is possible as per my null hypothesis, and as per my alternative hypothesis, we are trying to find the other reasons. So like this we used to write. So any research paper which you find and they have not discussed the what was their null hypothesis and what was their alternative hypothesis, it means they have not worked as per the rules and regulation of the research what we used to follow. So always write that what you are expecting, because until unless you will not write at the beginning that for what reason you are going to perform, and after performing the experiment, what you are expecting, what are there in your mind. So without thinking, the research is not possible. Directly you cannot say that A is compared with B, and finally it has been found that A is not the one reason for causing B. We have found another reasons also, that A naught, B naught, C naught, D naught were other reasons. So you have to quote at the beginning that we will try to evaluate the other factor which are associated with the A. Or what you're trying to prove? You're trying to prove that might be A can be the reason, but we will try to find the others also, that other factor are also contributing or not, because all the smokers will not suffer from the cancer, that is sure. If you take a survey of 100 smoker nearby, you will find that out of 100 only 10 or 15% finally met within cancer. And all the cancer patient, if you're going to a hospital and you will take the data of 100 cancer patients, then you will find that out of those 100 cancer patients, you are going to find 10 or 15 patients like this, those who have never smoked. So both things are possible. We will look for both the side, darker side as well as the front side also. That is the thing. So if any queries we have in the these two topics, that hypothesis as well as on the error, then I used to take. Otherwise, I'll finish the session. Let me stop the recording. Just wait. I was trying to